As a primary care physician, I really enjoy longitudinal care. The idea that I can take care of a person over time. We don't have to know everything or do everything on the first day, but I'm going to be there with you, holding your hand, making sure that you get better. That, to me, is the most rewarding part of practicing medicine. Hepatitis is just an inflammation of the liver. It can be caused by any number of things. It can be caused by being very overweight or obese. It can be caused by alcohol and some other drugs of abuse. It can also be caused by viruses. And there are three particular viruses that are known to cause inflammation of the liver. They're very common. Hepatitis A, B, and C. Now, hepatitis A and B are not as common here in the United States, and they also are most often self-limiting. That is, the patients don't get that sick, or if they do, it's very transient. Hepatitis C, on the other hand, is this virus that oftentimes becomes chronic. Only about 5% of people are able to clear hepatitis C if they're infected with it, whereas the other 95% develop a chronic infection. Now, the way hepatitis C is transmitted is through blood-borne contact. It's very unlikely that it'll be transmitted sexually, although that's potentially possible. Mostly you see it in persons who've injected drugs or have shared needles with persons who are hepatitis C infected. But there are some more common ways of transmitting it. If you share a razor or a toothbrush, you can imagine that you might be exposed to the blood products of someone who had previously used those instruments. So hepatitis C probably infects about 4 million people in the United States. And to put that in comparison to, say, HIV, which is another common viral infection, I suppose it's not that common, but it is a very serious chronic viral infection. Hepatitis C has 4 million patients in the United States, whereas HIV only has about 1 million. So there's a lot more persons infected with hepatitis C. And recently, there have been some exciting advances in the treatment of hepatitis C. We've long treated the disease with combinations of medications like interferon and ribavirin that have terrible, very onerous side effects, and patients often ask me if the virus is worse or if the treatment is worse. But more recently, we've developed some treatments that actually can cure hepatitis C without all of those side effects. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited about in treating patients these days. It's not that often that in medicine we get a chance to cure someone. And with hepatitis C, we have about a 99% cure rate in patients who have certain types of hepatitis C and haven't developed full-on cirrhosis or scarring of the liver. Oh, this is a really exciting time, and patients have a hard time holding back all of their enthusiasm. In fact, they're rushing through the doors to get this new treatment, because in the end, hepatitis C is a chronic viral disease, and it'll ultimately result in scarring of the liver and can result in death or patients needing transplants. And it's not a very pretty ending if hepatitis is on board. So when we're able to cure a disease such as this is something that patients really connect to. And while the disease may not have dramatic symptoms in the beginning, it can become very debilitating over time. So for patients who are starting to develop symptoms and start to suffer from the disease, it's a great relief to be able to cure it and see themselves go back to more semblance of normal. Well, when we meet patients, we first want to establish the fact that they have a chronic infection with hepatitis C. We want to figure out how much hepatitis C they have, the burden of the disease. We use a lab test called a hepatitis C viral load to determine how many hepatitis C viruses there are in each drop of blood. We also take a look at their fibrous score, or how scarred the liver happens to be and how inflamed the liver happens to be, so that when we start treatment, we can follow along to see that the treatment is working. We should see in just a matter of weeks the hepatitis C viral load reduced down to undetectable levels, and we're hopeful that over time we'll see the inflammation in the liver decrease and the scarring at least be halted, if not start to reverse. We usually test to determine how much a person's liver has been affected or scarred by hepatitis in several ways. There's some blood tests that we use that can give us an indication, or certainly an estimate of how scarred the liver is. We can also use radiography, either MRI or even ultrasound can give a very good indication of how much the liver is scarred. The gold standard, of course, for determining liver scarring is a biopsy. We don't do near as many biopsies as we used to because they're invasive and they hurt. But there are certain times when you need to know for certain just how scarred the person's liver is, and a biopsy makes sense. But for most patients, in general, we're able to assess the liver with just simple blood test or an ultrasound. When patients come in for their follow-up visits and they see that their viral load is now undetectable, they get really excited. It's difficult for patients when they know that that the treatments for treating hepatitis C have been so onerous in the past, and how difficult it was for them to take previous treatments. To now have a 1 pill once a day treatment that usually has very few side effects but has such a dramatic response is pretty exciting. And I get excited too. It's high fives all the way around. These new treatments are so new that studies have not been performed on all the different types or genotypes of hepatitis C. So while we await the medical science and the medical research to catch up and tell us whether the medications are useful in certain other genotypes of hepatitis, right now we're primarily treating genotypes 1 through 4.
At St. Hope, you're more than just a number. St. Hope, patient-centered healthcare with a personal touch.